So my name's Matt. I'm a 30-year stock and option trader, and I was trying to give kind of my trades, my recommendations, and I've been lax about posting videos, and it's mainly because I'm reflecting on my 30-year history of my lessons learned, how I could potentially change things and pass that guidance on to you. So this is kind of a high level overarching video as I drive around Tacoma, Washington. And what have I done differently? So first up, as a trader, you're in and out of trades. And the problem with that is if you're in the United States, taxes are short-term capital gains, okay? And that is much higher than long-term capital gains, which is over a year. Now, I've had situations where I've paid over six figures just in taxes off my trades. No joke. And as you build wealth over time, that number keeps going up and up and up. And so at a certain point, you have to consider that in your trading. Second up, I have bought the best companies on planet Earth. I owned Google at the IPO, right around that time frame. I've owned Cisco when people didn't know what a router and switch was. I own CrowdStrike right now, which most people still don't really understand what they're doing. I guess what I'm trying to say is, although I owned all the best players over the years, Microsoft comes to mind, I could go on and on, Netflix when they were still sending out discs, but I never, as a trader, held them, say, forever, the Warren Buffett strategy. Now, here's where that helps. Well, first off, why would you trade if you already own a stake in the best companies in the world? Okay, if earnings are growing, if the management team's executing, if their products are diverse, why would you just bat in and out of that? That just creates a big tax picture, to be quite honest, and then you miss out on, in my opinion, the real gains. So are there situations where I made $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 off a swing trade? Yeah, and there still might be a place for that within a portfolio, but the core of your holdings should be some of the most quality companies that you believe in. And I can do a whole nother video on the metrics of what to look for. But growing earnings, low debt, I mentioned all of it just a minute ago. But don't trade in and out of those, in my opinion. Hold them forever unless the situation changes. And if you're way up, take a third off the table, okay? And then find another quality company if you've held it longer than a year, so the tax picture is less. But I can tell you that rich people don't sell their assets. They borrow against them. And I didn't understand that as a young kid that didn't have a lot of money to trade. Let me say that again. Rich people don't sell good assets. They borrow against them. So, how do you borrow against stocks? Well, I don't know, because I've never done it, right? It's hard for the little guy, but if you're a Grant Cardone or a Warren Buffett, I guarantee you can walk into a bank and use your stock portfolio as leverage for your next project, investment in real estate, land. If you're Bill Gates, I guarantee a bank's going to sit down and figure that out with you. Now, in my case, I have found an asset that you can borrow against, and it's just really gaining momentum. And I honestly believe in that more than I do any stock now, long term. And I'm just going to say it because most people don't understand. They don't understand it. Bitcoin. I know your mind just exploded and you're like, but Matt, I got all these questions. I'm not going to go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole in this video, but there is a situation where I am trying to buy a real estate property. It's over $1 million, and I am going to borrow against about 20% down in Bitcoin. So I'm not actually selling my asset, because I do consider Bitcoin an asset. I'm going to borrow against it to get in $1 million property that hopefully eventually I can share up to my audience. So in a future video, if you like and subscribe, hopefully you see that coming. I'm not going to show how I do that, but Bitcoin is an asset that the little guy can actually borrow against, and I am right now. I took a $6,000 loan. Let me think. Yeah, It's about $6,000. I use some Bitcoin as collateral. My interest rate is like 4.5%. I got it within about 30 seconds, maybe a minute max. And I can pay on it when I want, however I want. And it continues to collect that, or I continue to accrue interest against it. But it's like 4.5%. Like, what would a bank charge me? An unsecured loan would be at least 10, 11%, I would think, with perfect credit. So I personally feel that is a superior asset on all levels. But again, this is not a Bitcoin channel. I have another channel for that. We're here to talk stocks and potentially options, because that's what I've done in the past. So up to this point of the video, let me summarize. Buy and hold quality companies should be your foundation, in my opinion, over time. Now, I'm in so many forums. Some of them are dividend investors, right? Buy and hold boring stuff forever. The advantage of that is if you get into quality companies and they continue to grow over time, whether the growth is due to earnings growth or inflation growth, but then you get some capital back in dividends and you could reinvest that in a drip, meaning you could buy more shares and have that compound. It's the compounding effect that matters. It's not the swing trading in and out of a stock, in my opinion. If you are working a full-time job, I've always recommended in the past an index fund, low cost. So VOO comes to mind, VOO or SPY. They're basically the same thing, but one has lower fees. If you're more into technology and have a longer time horizon, QQQ, which is up big today, but it's been crushed over the last 5 weeks. But those are your top companies. Now, here's a huge caveat on something that's changed for future investing. AI. Now, no one can tell you I have an idea what AI is going to look like in the future, but that's because I study and I'm more of a futurist. I'm a forward thinker, but what I can tell you is I don't know what companies are going to survive AI. It reminds me of the dot-com bust, and this is not that at all, because these companies actually make real money. But if they're in software as a subscription, the slow erosion of their earnings and their stock prices is going to continue. This is not hey, AI is the shiny penny and it's going to go away. No, AI is going to replace everything as we know it, and we don't know what that future looks like yet. So why does this create an issue with stock investing? Well, it's opportunity and it is an issue. The issue is overreactions across the board on every level, and billion to trillion dollar companies swinging violently real time. And oh, by the way, we're going to go to 24-hour trading here shortly. So while you're sleeping, if that news event comes out, you could instantly lose 10-15% of your wealth on one particular stock, or gain it on a given day. And that's really hard because you'll have winners, you'll have losers, and the idea is over the long term you win out. But it's making me change the way I'm trading altogether, to be quite honest, because 24-hour trading changes everything when you're sleeping, because you cannot react. So limit orders, trailing stops, risk mitigation is what I'm ultimately talking to. And if you don't have time for all that, index funds blend all that into one particular ticker and allow you to ride out that volatility a little easier. What else can we talk about? Technology has changed. Everybody and their brother can trade with a cell phone now, real time. That wasn't the case when I was trading. I was a minority, like less than the 1%er, because I've been trading on a cell phone for more than a decade now. My lunch break, I'd go out and do some trades. I actually did a trade right before I started recording this video. Real-time information, the ability and technology to do trades literally anywhere in the world is amazing. However, it changes the volume and liquidity of things, and it gets a little crazy when you think about computers and AI and what that looks like in the trading game, because I and you and everybody around you cannot keep up with that. And so when a computer AI is looking at trading patterns, I think of the quants and the software that they built way back when, what we're migrating into, I can't even wrap my head around. Computers are going to trade off news. They're going to look at X or Twitter and feeds and patterns and charts, and no actual human is going to be able to compete against that. They're going to scalp pennies and make gazillions, and that's coming. So how do I take advantage of that as a trader? I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't know yet, but I know a lot of companies, because of AI, are just going to go away, especially if it's software as a subscription. Think Adobe, but I don't know if they're going away. That's a big company, right? Hard to replace, but some guy, some kid in his dorm room can spin up something that maybe isn't as good as Adobe, but is good enough. So is Adobe going to lose revenue? Yeah, they are, and that's why their stock is tanked. But they're not the only ones. There's a lot of them. So consider that in your trading in the future. Next up, I'm at a point where I got to start thinking about estate planning, right? Building up that wealth over time changes your tax picture. I'm no longer in a bracket where I should be doing taxes myself. It is worth that extra money to pay somebody else to take care of that. And I have to pass that torch and keep good records and allow the experts to save me money on my taxes in a legal, encouraged way by the government. That's not my job anymore, and it shouldn't be. I don't have time for that. Where else can I take this video as I'm driving across this cool bridge? Let me switch it up here. Yeah, Tacoma in its finest. It's kind of an overcast day. Heading over towards Ruston Way right now. What else? So we talked about taxes. We talked about trading. We talked about keeping high quality companies like forever, because rich people don't sell their assets. Now I say that, but if the story changes, if the thesis changed on why you bought something, then you need to reconsider and maybe possibly take some off the table, because if the story's changed, it doesn't matter what the stock price is. Gain or loss, it might be time to cut your losses. Okay, but if you've been in the stock 2, 3, 4 years, hopefully those gains will outstrip any of those short-term losses. Brokers. Okay, that's a tough one. The broker I'm with quite a few, allow me to connect to TurboTax and import all the statements, all the trades into TurboTax. But a tax accountant's just going to want your final statement for the year. You print it out, you pass it over, and they can deal with the bottom line numbers and not have to deal with all that other stuff. So that's something to consider. Wow, this is just kind of a random video with a lot of, it's a collage of information that I'm shelling out your way. I tell you what, the whole point of this channel was to farm questions. Right? And although I'm not a financial advisor, I can certainly give you my opinion. Just do your own due diligence, right? Because I don't want to give you financial advice, but I can help you avoid the pitfalls. I absolutely can, and hopefully enrich you in ways that you didn't think were possible. I'm going to close this out with, I have been trading around Bitcoin treasury companies. A couple of them. So MSTR comes to mind, and ASST comes to mind, because that's a low share price, which makes it easier. But what I would tell you is these are not for the normal person, right? If you think Bitcoin's volatile, this is worse, okay? So if you thrive on adrenaline, I could do a whole video on how I'm making money trading those things. But there is some products that have come out that are more geared towards your retirees, funny enough, related around Bitcoin, that pay annual dividends. One of them is called Stretch, STRC. There's another product from Strive, I believe it is. I'd have to look up the ticker. I think it starts with an S. If I remember, SATA, S-A-T-A. They pay 11 to 12% dividends annually, but paid monthly. And those, to me, because I believe in Bitcoin, interests me a lot. So instead of parking capital in like a savings account that's just going to erode value because of all the inflation we've had over the last 20, 30, 40 years, I I like that. I like it a lot because it has a place, I think, in certain portfolios. But if Bitcoin goes to zero, this would as well. So you're not dealing with corporate earnings. You're not dealing with CEOs snorting lines of coke. You are dealing with something, a complete different asset. And if you don't understand Bitcoin, I'm not sure I don't want to say recommend, but even consider these products. But I do have assets in them, and they've been doing actually quite well. It's more predictable, but again, I believe in Bitcoin more than those. And I've also listed in the past IBIT. Now it's taken a huge bath, right? Because Bitcoin has taken a huge bath. And what I've realized is in IBIT, you're paying about a 1% fee annually. So every year, you're out of $100, you're losing about $1 of your $100. And the hope is that Bitcoin's going to go up 30, 40, 50%. And that $1 loss on a 1% basis is nothing. However, in a down market, you're getting beat up. You're paying the fee and you're losing value in Bitcoin. So I'm taking this a different direction. I'm taking out some of the leverage, and I'm actually just buying Bitcoin on some of the exchanges and then throwing it into cold storage. So because I think Bitcoin's going to outpace the S&P 500. I believe it's going to about outpace the NASDAQ 100, Berkshire Hathaway, and any of the things that you've probably heard about in the past, possibly even NVIDIA. I think long term it will outpace NVIDIA because it's hard to grow NVIDIA when you're already a $4 trillion company, but they will continue to grow. Bitcoin is not all that. There's 21 million of them. I'm going to give you my quick bull case on Bitcoin, right? Because most of the traders on this channel won't understand it. There's only 21 million of them. It was created, we don't know by who. Satoshi's what they call them. Could be a group of people, it could be the NSA, it could be an individual. We don't know. They could be dead. However, they released this into the world because of the financial crisis. They looked at what caused the financial crisis and they created something that's secure. It's decentralized. It is limited in supply. I would argue that it's going to be the most scarce asset on planet Earth. More scarce than gold, silver, definitely more scarce than dollars because we keep printing those. And people get asphyxiated with a high dollar price, which right now is about $68,000, with a high last year of $128,000. I bought $80 worth the other day, and it was simple. I punched a couple buttons on my phone, and it was done. And eventually, and this is what I would recommend, and this is the direction I'm going, putting it into a cold storage device that you control. You control your passwords, which are essentially seed phrases, and over time start stacking when we have these lower prices. Because I think we're going to get to a point in the future where most people they'll look at the $1 million price, because I think it's going to go there in the future, and they'll be scratching their heads like, maybe I should take a look at this Bitcoin thing, right? We're still really early, but word of caution, could we go down to 30,000? Could we go down to 50 from the current 68,000 level? Yes, we could. Okay, but could we go up to 300,000 in a couple years? Yes, we could. So in that scenario, stacking when you can, when it makes sense, with money that you don't need for the next 4 to 8 years. And I think you'll thank me in the future. And if I'm wrong, you can give me a lot of hate in the comments. So, but in my scenario, what I'm trying to do is stack an asset that I think is going to outpace everything to basically leverage against or take a loan against, use it as collateral to get back into real estate more heavy. I think that is a sound risk. I don't want to call it risk averse, but this is the game of all this. Everything has risk. It doesn't matter if it's gold, somebody can break into your house and steal it. Right? It doesn't matter if it's buying the dollars, right? I think when I bring a lot of this stuff up, people they think about investing as gambling or this and that, and they don't know what they're talking about. What they don't question is the dollar that they're buying and how it's losing value and why that could be. And it's kind of ironic to me because schools don't teach that either, at least public schools. And in my mind, not to be conspiracy theory-ish, but that's intentional, right? The government wants everybody to grow GDP and get on the hamster wheel and start running until you are so worn out, you are unwilling to fight. And Bitcoin, if you study it, is not that at all. It in my mind is the way out of that rat race over the long haul. And so you got to be, do not invest in any of that unless you understand what you're investing in. And the first step in the Bitcoin journey is looking at the white paper. Read it. Think about the financial crisis. If you lived through it, read the white paper. And if you don't understand what's in it, it's only 8 pages, right? It could take you less than an hour to fully go through the thing. But if you don't understand what's in there, go to ChatGPT, ask it a few more questions, and you'll over time start asking more questions, or better yet, ask why the dollar keeps losing value to ChatGPT or any of the AI things and see what it spits out. Because I think at that point you're gonna be like, oh, maybe I should consider something else that might preserve my time and energy that I've gone out and worked so hard for, so that I could better take care of my family and eat better and work out and just have that free time to explore what you want to do versus what your company or job wants you to do. So that's kind of my thoughts. But I can tell you, having studied Bitcoin for a very long time, adoption's continuing to grow. People's minds are starting to shift. And you might be against it now, but there's going to be a separation of people that are in it that start living a different type of life. And then those questions start sparking. And as we get further and further down this journey, it's not a matter of if you stumble upon it, it's when you take the time to figure it out. That's really what it's going to come down to in the future. So if you live long enough to see all that. So in any event, I'm sorry to go down the whole Bitcoin rabbit hole, but that is my focus, and it's making me to debate how I want to handle this channel. So, with that, where am I invested as far as stocks? Let's reel it back in. Okay, I still believe very wholeheartedly in Nvidia, and it dropped to the 167 level, and I think that's a complete bargain. Because hardware is not going anywhere, AI is not going anywhere, and I would be stacking that right now if I had discretionary money to throw at something. Furthermore, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, which is either VOO, VOO, or QQQ, we're eventually going to roll out of this Iran thing. Things will go back to the new normal, whatever that looks like. And we are not out of inflation at all. And companies have assets, right? And they will continue to go up in value because regardless of earnings, companies will go up in value because housing keeps going up in value and assets keep going up in value and gold keeps going up in value. And the same thing happens in companies. So if you buy quality companies and stocks, whether it's through an ETF index fund, or the actual company itself through their ticker symbol, those are going to go up in value because inflation's not even near done. Because the United States is going to have to print a lot of money going forward to service debt because we don't pull in enough revenue to pay the interest on our debt and Social Security and all the other obligations that we're handing out to the public. So I hate to say, I never thought I'd say this in my lifetime. The United States monetary system looks like a Ponzi scheme now, and it's only a matter of when this all falls apart, and I'm starting to see it real time. And that's why I go back to Bitcoin, because that is the system that helps you get out of that other system, because you don't need a bank anymore or permission or a bunch of other stuff. So I encourage you, if you're in the stock realm, just do yourself a favor. Keep an open mind and take a look at Bitcoin. That's all I'd ask. Because I want to save as many people as I can and pull them across the finish line, because we're going to need that going forward. I think there's going to be a lot more crazy, not only politically, but societally. For instance, and I'm going to close with this. I hate to be conspiracy theory-ish, but the Strait of Hormuz getting closed right now, they keep talking about oil, but it's much more than that. Having served the United States Air Force and going over that region and seeing the culture and the issues and the geopolitics and whatnot, I have a very staunch opinion on the whole thing. But that is going to be very difficult to control because of small drones, right? And although we've already obtained the United States air superiority over that region, to think that we without a long-term presence control the Strait of Hormuz is not, I think we calculated wrong in that aspect. That's going to be an ongoing issue for a very long time. And why does that matter? Well, fertilizers go through that region, okay? And that's a huge issue right now. We already have issues in a lot of other countries with famine, but what happens when the farmers in the United States, who have already gone through hell with the Canadian tariffs and a bunch of other things, can't get fertilizers? Do you see where this is going, right? I don't want to say go and plant and grow your own food, but, you know, it could look kind of ugly. And that's why produce prices keep going up, tariffs, fertilizers, coffee, right? Had a huge drought, so you could tie this all back into global warming. However you want to spin it, food and clean water in the future are over time becoming issues. So just kind of start thinking of that. I don't want you to be a doomsdayer and, you know, put a bunch of rice and stuff at your house, but there's a reason why food keeps going up. And from everything I've seen, if your income, say you make $1,000, if 40% of that income averaged out over, say, America is going to food, and we're not even close to that, we're like 16%. If we were to get up to 40%, that's when society breaks and complete anarchy starts. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, not doomsdaying it out, but that is something to consider. So just trying to get people thinking, because the future is definitely uncertain. Actually, final thing, man, I've been going on for almost a half hour here. AI, I just want to close with that, because my passion's actually going to go down the AI path. And I think that's where I'm going to put the majority of my videos going forward, but I will occasionally drop a little goodness for this channel. But AI is going to change the future. And let me just give you some examples, right? The natural state of any economy, if you did not print any more money, okay, say our money was backed by gold like it used to early 70s and before. The natural state of economy is deflation, meaning prices go down. And the reason is competition, right? If I can make money in that space, I'm going to compete against you. I'm going to compete against you. And the more competition drives down price. The other thing that happens is time goes by, people get more efficient. Whether it's using technology, whether it's, it doesn't really matter the reason, but the price of goods, historically, it comes down. That is the natural state of an economy. So for instance, when I first looked at flat screen TVs, when that was a thing, a 36-inch flat screen TV was about $3,000, because you didn't have to, it was the newest, latest, greatest shiny penny. And honestly, it's not as thin as the current flat screen TVs, but I was just getting a frame of reference. I just walked in and bought a 50-inch TV for $200 with an extended warranty that brings me up to 5 years. It's about that thick. I threw it in actually the back of this car, brought it home, set it up. So deflation, that's what I'm trying to focus on. Price goes down, $3,000, $2,800, $2,000, $1,800. $1,500, all the way down to $200. Think about that for a second, right? And that actual TV has so much more. The picture quality is better, has a good remote control. It has all the streaming services built in. I can update the firmware. Like, it's not the TV I would have bought for $3,000, which honestly would be in the trash right now. So I would say the same thing about this Tesla car I'm driving in right now. Okay. EVs is that TV, and there's so much hate going on right now with EVs, and it's all propaganda spit out from the oil companies way back when. It's a contentious issue, especially in the Midwest. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm an American. I get that. I totally get it, right? Because the people are smart, but the public's dumb. That's pretty much what it boils down to. But I have... This is, I would consider, a second to third gen EV. I had a first gen EV, and that thing does 50 miles right now on a charge. The one I'm in right now does about 300 miles, and it is infinitely better in every way. And the next wave of these things are going to go like 1,000 miles on a charge, and the batteries are going to last the life of the car, and they're going to charge in like 10 minutes. So if you're anti-EV, there will be a point where you will not be able to buy a gas-powered vehicle, because it just won't make sense. It'd be like trying to rub fire with a bunch of sticks when I have matches. Why would I do that? I have a lighter. Now I have a blowtorch. Now I have a flamethrower. Now I have a nuclear bomb, right? Evolution, right? And if most people that I've talked to that hate EVs, it's because they got into Fox News and they got into the propaganda and the tax credits and the rest of it. And they're like, I'll never get an EV. And they'll come up with all the reasons why they're garbage. And I can tell just by the way they articulate their words, they've never driven one. So, it is what it is. But I'm not trying to convince you to buy one right now. Buy what you want, because we're in freaking America and it should be that way. Okay. But I'm giving you an example of evolution and deflation, right? The only reason we have inflation, the only reason we have 12 people at the Federal Reserve and they decide if they're going to devalue your time and energy and your savings. That's what it boils down to. And when people come to that realization, it changes the way you trade. It changes the way you risk manage. It changes the way you diversify, which I haven't talked about, and that's actually how I'm going to close this out. I'm not going to keep going. Diversification. Absolute necessity on any portfolio. It is easy to over leverage yourself with 10x leverage, 20x leverage, 100x leverage, and gamble your way to hell. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's such a... It'll make your hair fall out. It will make your beard gray. And it is not a good, steady way to build wealth. Now, if you want to carve off a small percentage of that, say 5-10%, your gambling money, if you will, I'm not going to discourage you from that. But just be careful. Know what it is. Know that it's gambling and you're going to win some. And those endorphins are going to go. You're going to feel like a rock star. And then on the flip side, when you're losing it, you're going to feel like trash. But if 90% of everything else is in quality, in sound assets, then you're good. You're going to be like, well, okay, I can weather that storm. But if one thing that you have 100% of your stuff is going straight down to zero, you're going to be crying because you're going to have to start over. You're going to have to extend your retirement. You're not going to be able to go out to eat and take care of your family. So Warren Buffett stresses it. Pretty much anybody stresses it. But in my case, I view Bitcoin not as a investment that I hope to just trade and make a bunch of money. I view it as a new monetary world order, to be quite honest. And all I have to do to allow Bitcoin to go up is to allow the United States dollar, or any currency for that matter, to go to zero. And if you don't know what I mean by that, in the last 50, 60 years, if you just stuffed $100 under your pillow, right, and left it there, back then you could have bought something. Today, that $100 is worth like $1, okay? Bitcoin is the complete opposite of that. So I'm sorry to go back down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, but that is the reason I haven't done a lot of videos for this channel. I want to bring everybody up to speed. I do have a separate Bitcoin channel, and I preach the orange goodness. But AI is the future. If you have kids and they're interested in technology, allow them with supervision to go down that rabbit hole, because those are the new millionaires. There's going to be more millionaire businesses created out of AI than any time in our entire future. And your middle schooler could be a millionaire by the time they graduate high school. And I'm not joking. That opportunity, I realize the new generation's complaining about housing and this and that. It's because they're getting degrees in basket weaving, and those student loans. Imagine this, right? You go to college, right? 4 years in, you say you're 2-3 years down the road. The colleges have not adjusted and adapted their degree programs. They're running it as a business, right? They're charging tuition. They're educating, hopefully not, your kids in careers that won't even exist anymore. So they're going to come out of college with crazy student debt, and they won't be able to get a job. And they can't file bankruptcy because the United States government has changed those laws. So they are perpetually coming out in debt in a career, and they'll pivot, right? It's not the end of the world. They're young, but I'm talking about like a third of the people going to school right now are going to experience that. Unemployment is going to skyrocket. It's going to look ugly. And that's why, again, I go back to Bitcoin. I'm so bullish on it, because in order to save that hysteria, the federal government's going to come in and print a bunch of worthless money, and it's going to devalue everybody's savings. It's going to devalue your Social Security. It's going to devalue your retirement. And if it doesn't keep up with inflation, if you live long enough, you're completely screwed. So I don't want to be doomsday. That was the whole point of this channel. Help as many people as I possibly can through this high-level advice so that you could start coming up with a map that works for your situation. So, wow, that is a big dump. I'm hesitating to even post this video, but if you stuck with me this long, you get a nice little star, a little gold star, big hug, and I appreciate your patience. So hopefully you like and subscribe if you like this type of content. And to be quite honest, if you got questions, I'll do a video about it. When I have time, I'll post it. It's probably going to be unedited raw like this one, and that's why this is so long. So with that, take care. God bless. Have a good day.